Oh my god, guys, Counter-Strike is back. My life, once again, has purpose, and that also means recaps are here, so that way you guys don't have to scroll Reddit if you miss the games live. I am here to fill that void in your life while you're inevitably playing another game on your main monitor, so hopefully I can soothe you with the sweet sounds of our first round of results coming out of the first Blast Bounty. A brand new format, a brand new year, and so many brand new teams means we have so much to get into. Today we had 4 best of 3 series. We had FlyQuest taking on MiBR, 3D Max taking on Heroic, Liquid taking on 9 Pandas, and we rounded it out with Spirit taking on Fnatic, including our very first train game at the pro level. This is the second goddamn video I'm making today, so I'm already pretty tired, so let's not waste any more time. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. And before we get started, I would like to thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video was sponsored by Skin Club. They're one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by its provably fair system. You can open cases individually or play against other users in case battles, whether there's against other users on the site, your own friends, or privately with bots if solo queuing isn't just a necessity, but a lifestyle. But that's not all. Skin Club also runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases for a little extra Skrilla on top, and if you don't like what you got, you can try and upgrade to something else unless you are me specifically. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description and get a 7% deposit bonus when you do so by topping off your account with crypto, credit card, or skins from your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and make sure you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that does not restrict gambling. Never gamble to make a profit and only play with money you are okay losing. Gambling can be a serious addiction, and if you or a loved one are suffering in the US or Canada, you can reach out toll-free to 1-800-GAMBLER to receive help. Be safe and well, and thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Alright, so we kicked off the event with FlyQuest taking on MiBR. This is a new look FlyQuest coming in with Regali stepping in for Alistar to take over omping duties. This is the first time FlyQuest have deviated from an all-Australian roster, and honestly, I think it's been pretty exciting. MiBR are a team I rated quite highly towards the end of last season, and honestly, I predicted MiBR to do quite well to start off this year, potentially breaking into a top 15, maybe even bordering on top 10 kind of place. But here in this first series, they got off to a bit of a rough start. If you want to know what happened for MiBR in this series, well, they lost in 2 games, and it definitely was not Insani's fault. He was pretty much the only person who showed up in the server in a significant way. The only MiBR player with a positive rating after either map. He ends with a 120 rating 2.1, 38 kills across both maps, and the closest player behind him was LionHeartZ with only 21, coming at the hefty cost of 31 deaths while he was at it. So yeah, MiBR, they played like shit. But in fairness, this bounty is simply a qualifier, it's played online. I have no idea what kind of ping they might have been dealing with, so I'm going to chalk this off as just a first game back kind of deal. For FlyQuest, honestly, pretty surprising game. It's hard for me to read too much into this because I feel like MiBR definitely underperformed, because usually Safe, LionHeartZ, Exit, these players are not normally this unreliable. And then on top of it, the first thing we have to start off with is that Dexter was thermonuclear on both maps. I mean, he top-fragged both games. Like, your IGL is just not going to consistently do that. Now, again, to the team's credit, pretty much everybody was getting theirs. It's not like Dexter carried or anything, but the big thing that definitely stands out is that Regali seems to be an immediate firepower upgrade for this team in a big way. I'm going to keep things kind of more general and not go too much into specifics here, because both these games were relatively boring and there's more interesting stuff to talk about. If you go back and watch the highlights, Regali looks sick. And again, you know, 1 series sample size, so just like Ultimate, let's not jump to too many conclusions, but based on the eye test, his mechanics look really solid. He adds a more dynamic, aggressive playstyle that simply Alistar was not bringing to the table. I think that if you go back and watch some of those FlyQuest games from the major cycle specifically, I think it points out that FlyQuest towards the end kind of knew that the writing was on the walls. So it's clear they weren't like really playing like they wanted to be there. Oh no, wait, no, that is not the right way to put it. They just weren't playing with the same confidence that I think they have shown previously, especially earlier on in the year. And that can happen when issues start to compound and things start to fray around the edges. Point being, at least in this matchup, they played a lot more confident, they took more aggressive gunfights consistently on both maps, and they shined better as individuals, and the team play looked a little sharper and a little more coordinated, and Regali seems like a great X-Factor addition to really help top off and make the team better fit to handle these kinds of situations. Again, I want to stress that, if you roll the clock back, like towards maybe the Copenhagen Major, we talked about FlyQuest and the Mongols as very similar tiers of teams, these kind of like dark horse contenders that maybe could make the run in the right bracket in the right environment. And on one hand, the Mongols continued to evolve and get better, and the FlyQuest dropped off. So maybe now with Regali, we can start to see FlyQuest correct themselves and start rising up the rankings and get some good results going. Next up, we had Heroic take on 3D Max, and this was actually a very close series. And it's weird to say that because if this was the Heroic lineup that was at the Major, it wouldn't have been close at all. I'm sorry. 3D Max are an interesting team, but against the old Heroic, it would not have been much of a contest. But Heroic, like many other teams, are coming into this tournament with basically a completely new lineup. One I didn't really have time to cover during all the roster mania happening, so let's take a second to talk about it now. Heroic are now the lineup of all of the other Songal players who have not moved on to other projects, being Youngster, XFloud, and LNZ. They added Tinner, I believe is how you pronounce his name. My brain wants to say TNR. Tinner, I'm not sure. I'm sure the comments will tell me. They added him, as well as Sun Pius, who previously was benched on Falcons for Simple. Now, obviously, this is so dramatically different than the Kicksan-led core of old. It has to be judged on its own merits. However, it's certainly going to be a step down from whatever potential the previous team had, and I think that's just an unfortunate reality. Heroic are going to enter this year as a top 8 or better team for my money, and this roster, unfortunately, I just don't think it has the same kind of aspirations. While there are obviously some very good elements, Tinner, I'm gonna keep saying it wrong, and it really bugs me. Tinner started off this series playing fantastic. He was the best player for Heroic consistently throughout this series. LNZ seems like a very competent in-game leader, and he's young. XFloud and his now Eternal Fire compatriot Yada were clearly the two best parts of the old Songal team, so he himself looks really good. Youngster seems like a good piece as well, and then Sun Pius is someone who should be at bare minimum a top 10 opera in the world. I just don't think all the pieces are going to come together to give you that same potential as players like NertZ, Tessus, Degster, etc. Again, I don't want to come off as I'm beating down on this roster that Heroic have put together, as I'm sure they're going to do fine proportional to their strengths. I just really did like their previous roster, and I've talked about this before. I hate seeing young teams get picked apart for pieces because they belong to organizations that don't have the same weight to throw around as a FaZe Clan, a G2, as a Vitality. Because they don't have that clout, because they don't have that money, you don't get to see rosters play for a year and a half, God forbid 2 years. Something I talked about in my interview with Dust, which went up earlier today, by the way, you should go check it out if you haven't, is that for the vast majority of Counter-Strike players, we don't really think about contracts ending. Usually players are traded before contracts ever come up. Anyways, I've talked a lot without really talking about the actual series. This was a great series. It went 3 maps. Our first map on Ancient went into overtime where Heroic took out the W 16-14. Both of these teams played very aggressive T-sides off the back of a formula we have talked to death in the past, winning pistol round, converting the second round Force Spy, and then running that momentum. But the difference is, in this case, that both teams were very successful in early gun rounds, preventing either CT side from settling into a formula too early. I would say the difference here is that 3D Max hit a wall in the second half that they simply couldn't overcome. There were just a couple of rounds where they let anti-eco wins come out from Heroic that they really shouldn't have. There were low buy situations where LNZ or somebody else would get damaged done with a 5-7, and had 3D Max taken care of that, they would have won this game very early. They got to match point with a 12-8 scoreline before Heroic could put 4 straight together to push it to overtime, and then overtime, Tinner came out of nowhere and was just electric. Multiple huge multi-kill rounds in the overtime. He was getting 3 and 4 kills at the absolute best moment to utterly shut down 3D Max and help Heroic take care of things in overtime very cleanly. And again, I have to say, as far as a new unknown prospect, this is not somebody I had ever seen play previously. This kid looks really good. Obviously, he has no presence against tier 1 competition, but over his last 3 months, 77 maps played, he has a 1.28 rating, 99 firepower on HLTV, And honestly, the eye test reflects that. I don't know what's going on. This new crop of players that are coming up through FPL, entering the pro scene now, they're just coming in so much more polished, with such a high skill ceiling, that we're starting to see skill saturation in Pro Counter-Strike that's starting to get out of control. Feels like every couple of months you could just pluck a random European FPL rifler and they're just gonna drop dick in a tournament. Anyways, we move on to the second map of the series, is on Dust 2, and as written in the bylaws of the Recap Bible, you will know that you don't play Dust 2 against two types of teams. One, it's the French, and two, it's Eternal Fire. And can we just put on screen the 3D Max roster, please? Yeah, pretty sure they're French. By the way, about as good a time as any to talk about 3D Max kind of have like really good firepower. I don't know like how much I've actually highlighted that during these videos because yeah, like their roster's like sneaky good. Maka is an incredible opper for his level. Exercise routinely just like does really well as a rifler, and then you get great moments out of Graffiti, Joko, even Lucky occasionally. Off the top of my head, who is the IGL of this team? Oh yeah, it's Maka, who is their opper and arguably their best player. Kind of crazy. You know, I typically rail against the op IGL combo, but credit to Maka, he certainly knows how to make it work, at least better than other examples I've seen recently, Jame. Anyways, what sort of went wrong here for Heroic that didn't go wrong elsewhere in the series? Well, I mean, it's Dust 2. They got outgunned. Sun Pius tried to have his best in the op v op matchup, but couldn't really win it. Tinner was literally excellent in the first map, totally missing here with only 9 kills. And on their second half T side, xFloud was the only player to approach double-digit kills, or at least be close to it. So they just got outgunned, and that's, you know, kind of the Dust 2 formula. If you can't execute these mid-A splits, these mid-to-B, if you can't hold mid-control, like, you're just going to lose the T-side effort. The CTs are going to be able to take too much forward momentum, they're going to pinch you on flanks when you try and go B, and that's what happened. 3D Max are just a very good Dust 2 team, Heroic, not so much. But fair play to Heroic because they bounced back in such a strong way on the final map of the series on Anubis by frankly kind of destroying 3D Max 13-7. There's no way around it. If you only win 2 full buy rounds on your T side of Anubis, you are not in a good position to win that game. To be illustrative at that point, 3D Max won both pistol rounds and the conversions after, and still lost this game 13-7. That is remarkable. That is a statistical anomaly, in case you don't know about the data behind pistol rounds and the way they affect win rate. But again, that's just kind of them breaks when you can't win a gun round to save your life. Not for a lack of effort, it wasn't like it was a stomp. There were definitely a ton of rounds that 3D Max could have won, potentially broke the economy of Heroic, and then things get a little more interesting. I mean, you look at the kill spread for this game, and again, Heroic is not that far ahead, despite winning emphatically again 13-7. Shout out to xFloud though, who led the way for Heroic. He continues to look really good as an individual. Overall, for a debut of a very different Heroic lineup, I'm not mad at this result. I think there's a lot of potential to work around with this team. I do feel like it's not going to live up to its potential, and we're probably going to see more pieces come down the line. Again, to harken back to that Dust interview, one thing that I think is very important to keep in mind is that Heroic picked up this core from Songal to be able to inherit their VRS points because obviously they sold away all theirs to Falcons. So I think that definitely weighed a lot in terms of the decisions they made. They didn't simply pursue 5 individual players to make a new team, they had to make concessions to make sure they could get tournament invites. And when you consider all of that as the prerequisites for what they needed to do to build this roster, I think they did a damn good job. Our third series of the day saw Team Liquid take on 9 Pandas, and you know, listen, let's just call a spade, 9 Pandas. Not the greatest lineup in the world, and, you know, while Team Liquid love to give you a run for the money sometimes, this was a no-contest series. 13-9 on both maps is pretty much as gentleman sweepy as you can get, and despite some issues from Team Liquid, which we will talk about, I think we can all agree that the signing of NertZ has already bared a lot of great fruit. I mean, yeah, like, no shit. NertZ is an incredible player, and definitely better than Yakindar. Sorry, Yakindar. But, I was not expecting things to look as good as they did right away, because I was worried about the positions when it came to NertZ coming into Liquid, something we talked about in our Roster Mania news about it. But NertZ seems to be just fine in this system so far. One thing to note, he's playing a bit more aggressive on the T sides. He attempted more openings than you would see him do previously for Heroic. I think that's nice. A big concern with losing Yakindar is that he was obviously the entry, and all of these players on this team, save for Ultimate, are typically more passive, borderline lurk style players. So someone was going to have to step up. I was wondering if maybe it was going to be JKS, but no, it seems like NertZ might be taking that mantle, and if he continues to do it this well, I think it'll be a damn good thing. The firepower on Team Liquid is now legit as hell. When you get Twists online and he's not losing his skill because he has to focus on calling the game, the depth of Liquid actually gets quite scary. We know JKS is going to be consistent, always there, always putting up some good credible numbers. I will literally never once on this channel till the day I die criticize NavFly, and if you do it in my comments, I will hunt you down and find you. And Roland is from Poland. I want to be able to travel to Poland one day, so he is the best operator in the world. I will hear no discussion elsewise. So all of that is to say, when Team Liquid works, it works really good, and NertZ is obviously a home run of a signing. The thing that's going to continue to hold them back is Twist's efficacy on his T-side calling, because let's just call a spade a spade. Team Liquid does not have a very deep strat book. Their T-sides are incredibly simplistic and based around who can get opening picks and then just kind of working off of those. And that's not bad. I want to stress that. That is a totally fine system to operate. The problem is that it puts a heavy reliance on your ability as the leader to make excellent mid-round reads. And Twist, he can do that sometimes, but there's a difference between doing it occasionally when you have a feel as a star player than being the guy who has to do it every single round. This is the Kerrigan principle. Nico is fantastic at making mid-round reads occasionally based on intel he experiences as Nico playing Nico spots. Nico cannot do it every single round. Kerrigan will go, entry, die, and then become the man playing StarCraft, piloting his 4 other players, and make excellent reads throughout the course of a game. His value almost goes up when he dies. That's the difference between these kinds of callers. So many times, throughout the few times that Team Liquid lost in these rounds, their 1A plan on the T side would fail, and they pretty much wouldn't have anything else to work with. If Twist is going to maintain as an in-game leader, he needs to learn how to evolve his ability to read the game in real time. He needs to have a deeper strat book coming in, be able to better meta-strategize against his opponents, and most of all, be more flexible in what he calls in his round-to-round game. Whereas the previous limitation in other versions of Team Liquid was their ability to simply get the kills in the server, now Liquid has the fragging, they have the firepower. What's going to be hurting them the most is what they need to do to set up that firepower. You can almost make this as a parallel to G2 towards the end of last year with Snax. Now, it's not one-to-one, as Twist definitely has more acumen for being an IGL than Snax does, but he exhibits a lot of those same flaws and shortcomings. It's on Twist to continue to evolve his game to make it better. And our last series of the day was Team Spirit taking on Fnatic. And, you know, what else is there really to say about this matchup? Because it was very much a Coughing Baby versus Atomic Bomb kind of game. Because Team Spirit were pretty much always going to blitz Fnatic. They're just not a good enough team to contend with Team Spirit. Team Spirit, of course, won the major. Donk is the best player in the world. He is the next coming of Jesus. And he's not slowing down. Now, this series was not remarkable for the Counter-Strike that was played. It was pretty much only remarkable for the fact that this was the first pro match of Train that we have gotten to see at all. And for a first go-around, man, I gotta say, as a viewer, I'm really glad to have Train back, because it's just a breath of fresh air. It's so much different than every other map in the pool. It plays entirely different, the pace is different, the visuals are different, everything about it just screams new, shiny, CS2, and most of all, it's not fucking Vertigo! Anyways, I'm going to leave the validity of Train as a competitive experiment to people who are more qualified. I saw Austin actually uploaded a great video on it already. That bastard, he was faster than me, god damn it. But let's talk about the merits of Train in this specific series. I thought the product as a viewer was quite good, but it's very clear that teams have not had time to adjust to it. Because, let's just be honest here, Fnatic were playing Train like it's 2016 and this was old Train. They didn't bring anything new or innovative to it, they were embracing the new elements of the map, and their T-side setups were paltry at best. And in terms of the new roster that Fnatic are bringing in, I think Fear will be a good in-game leader for them once he has more time to work with this team, but Blame F is just on an island. I don't know what kind of player Barmilov is going to be in the long run. Again, another kind of tier 2 player I'm not familiar with, but here, he didn't look very confident on the op, he didn't show anything super remarkable in the face of someone like Shiro. But who knows, it is just a one-off series. But as a start, I'm not all that impressed. Nock was not that great either, but at least he was someone consistent, you kind of knew what to expect from him, and he had experience. Bermilov is a risk, and we'll see how that pans out. As for everything else, I mean, Fnatic, dude, Crims needs to retire. Like, I don't want to be mean about it because Crims is a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best players in CSGO's history. He deserves all that credit. But at this point, Fnatic, you have to force him to retire. This guy is bringing nothing of value to this team that could not be replaced by anybody close to half his age, if not better. He's not an IGL, he's not the coach, he doesn't bring any mid-round or secondary calling, not from what I can tell, and he's sure as hell not putting up good enough numbers in the server, and he's not a dedicated support player because it's fucking Crims. He never has been. So why is he here? Crims, retire. Crims, retire. Say it with me, guys. Crims, and then retire. Or at least just step down to a team that isn't trying to be one of the best in the world. BlameF is still in his prime. He is still great. Give him a roster. And then, like a truly old and washed up player, he manages to come into the interview after the map and he's like, oh, what are your thoughts on Train, Crims? He's like, bring back the old one. And it's like, yeah, Crims, I bet you do want the old Train back because the last time old Train was here was when you were good at the game. Anyways, Spirit were good. Donk was still good. Wasn't that great on Train, kind of took a while to come online, but that's fine, he still did donk things. Magics continues to have his same level of play from the major grand finals, and if Magics is just gonna be good now, then holy fuck, the entire world is doomed. This was just easy. Team Spirit, they got a month off to rest, they got a month off to recharge, they came back bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and got Fnatic as an absolute layup in the first round. They're absolutely chilling. They blitzed Fnatic so hard on the second map nuke that I don't even care to talk about it. It was over that fast. Anyways, I'm excited to see more of Spirit. I'm excited to see more of Train. Just hopefully not with Fnatic on the other side of it until Crims retires. Anyways, that's going to be the end of our first day of the Blast Bounty coverage. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description for a 7% deposit bonus. Make sure you bet and gamble responsibly. Thank you to Skin Club. Shout out to my channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Bubblesj, Milan Berta, Dr. Cocktor, and Patatas Kaftesi. If you want to support me directly, you can do so at the link in the description down below. For $5 a month, you get your name at the end of these videos and a special role in our community Discord. Thank you to our channel members. Follow me on Twitch, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace.